Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session organized under the Forum of Cardiac Anesthesiologists, Bangalore chapter, where we will be discussing recent updates or the recent articles that have come out in journals that is specifically related to cardiac anesthesia or cardiac critical care. Today, we will be discussing about an interesting topic related to acute aortic dissection and its complications. As you all know, acute aortic dissection is a rare but catastrophic disorder. It is caused due to a separation of the layers of the aortic wall. And depending upon where the tear originates in the intimal layer, there can be either an antegrade or a retrograde progression of the dissection. And depending upon how much the dissection has progressed, the complications related to the aortic dissection becomes manifest. So acute aortic dissection, if it is left untreated or not diagnosed in time, the mortality associated with this particular disease can exceed 50% within the first 48 hours of onset. And if you look at the complications that are associated with it, it can lead to multi-organ failure, stroke, myocardial infarction, paraplegia, renal failure, loss of limbs, bowel ischemia. It is endless. It can affect each and every organ within the body if not treated properly. So today we will be discussing about a recent article that had come in JCVA, and Dr. Rabin will be discussing about malperfusion associated with acute type A aortic dissection. Rabin, over to you.
Hello. Good evening, sir. Good evening,
yes, Rabin.
everybody. Today I'm going to present on the topic malperfusion in acute type A aortic dissection and its the management strategies. The study was done by Mona Jafar Karbali, Tian Thuy Tran, Wayne Khan, Ori Mekande, and the Amir Harki on the May 27, 2021. The aim of the review is to evaluate the current evidence on the management strategies of the patient with the acute type A aortic dissection associated malperfusion. Introduction. Acute type A aortic dissection is a serious condition and a clinical emergency that needs the immediate attention and the management. The acute type A aortic dissection malperfusion is the one of the most dangerous and the second most common, as it complicates around the 20 to 50% of the cases. Malperfusion, it is the inability to supply blood to a vital organ due to a dissection causing the arterial obstruction. And if this obstruction is not resolved quickly, it can progress to in-organ failure with infarction, also known as the malperfusion syndrome. Depending on which the vascular bed is affected, different malperfusion syndromes can arise, just like the cerebral malperfusion, myocardial malperfusion, mesenteric malperfusion, as well as the upper limb or the lower limb malperfusion. Some studies suggest that the patient should initially undergo the percutaneous reperfusion until the malperfusion resolves, followed by the delayed surgery. And there is a different treatment for the Barrett syndrome, so it is essential for a diagnosis to be ascertained quickly and accurately. Diagnosis of malperfusion can be made from a clinical history alongside a physical examination, laboratory tests, and the imaging. Recently, the computed tomography angiography is commonly used as the first-line investigation for diagnosing the aortic dissection as well as aiding the diagnosis of malperfusion syndrome. Typically, patients with acute type A aortic dissection present with a severe chest pain radiating to the neck, as well as the tearing. Some patients may complain of the tearing like chest pain. Here in the table 1, it indicates the incidence and the mortality rates of Barrett's malperfusion syndrome, and it is formulated from the Barrett's original studies and the review. The type of malperfusion here we discussed before, like the myocardial malperfusion, cerebral malperfusion, mesenteric malperfusion, upper and the lower limb malperfusion. In case of the myocardial malperfusion, the incidence it is from about 6.1 to 24.7. and the mortality ranges from around 19.5 to 39.4. Means the different studies show that the mortality associated with the myocardial malperfusion is the high in case of the acute type A aortic dissection, as well as in case of the cerebral malperfusion, the incidence is from the 7.2 to 23.6, and the mortality is from 20.7 to 15. Means it also bears the increase in the higher mortality rate. Along with the mesenteric malperfusion, incidence it ranges from 1.4 to 9.5, and the mortality it have the highest compared to the other malperfusion, and it ranges from the 30.8 to 75. Means it bears the more mortality rate than compared to the other malperfusion. And hence the upper and lower limb malperfusion is ranges from the 5.6 to 18.53.8. Study have showed, and the mortality rate it ranges from 77 to 24. And coming towards the myocardial malperfusion, it is an agreement across literature that mortality is increased when malperfusion is associated with the acute type A aortic dissection. As we have mentioned in table 1, the myocardial malperfusion and coronary ischemia complicate approximately about the 6% to 11.3% of the acute type A aortic dissection diagnosis. And myocardial malperfusion is often a result of hypertension and intimal flap prolapsing into the left ventricular outflow tract, occluding the coronary ostia and the aortic valve or the dissection, which may also track proximally towards the ostia. Many patients will also be diagnosed with a pre-existing cardiovascular disease when they present with a type A acute type A aortic dissection. Aortic dissection with a concomitant myocardial malperfusion have been also linked with the ischemic ECG changes such as the ST elevation or depression associated with the QA. And transesophageal echocardiography or the CT should be promptly ordered if there is suspicion of any dissection. Here they also mentioned the percutaneous coronary intervention can be considered before the surgical intervention in selected cases. However, it is not considered to be a definitive management strategy. Although PCI acts to temporarily increase the perfusion to cardiac muscle, there are significant risks involved, including further damage to the arterial wall and the requirement of the post-procedure anticoagulants, which is counterproductive in the scenario of the acute type A dissection. Surgical aortic repair to restore the true lumen significantly increases the perfusion to inner organs and remains the most effective choice of the management. Cerebral malperfusion. It is reported that the neurological dysfunction secondary to the cerebral malperfusion is associated with the increased mortality. Literature also dictates that the cerebral malperfusion is present in about 4.7 to 14% of the dissection cases. Cerebral malperfusion can be a result of aortic lumen occlusion by the intimal flap or the hypertension or the cardiac tamponade, resulting in the malperfusion of the brain or the hypoxic encephalopathy. In acute type A aortic dissection, patient with neurological deficit, a transesophageal echocardiography should be routinely performed to locate the exact position of the dissection. As well, a carotid Doppler to identify a thrombus and prevent cerebrovascular incident should also be incorporated into the investigation. It is also essential to reverse the cerebral malperfusion immediately to avoid the permanent disability. Literature also detects that the surgeons are occasionally reluctant to perform aortic repair surgery in patients who are comatose or severely neurological compromised. However, patients who receive medical management are reported to have a mortality of 100%. The current recommended treatment is a central aortic repair to ensure the cerebral perfusion. Reperfusion surgery can be carried out with the aid of therapeutic hypothermia and the anterograde cerebral perfusion, followed by administration of magnesium postoperatively to increase the positive outcomes. In acute type A aortic dissection, patients with neurologic manifestation of malperfusion should be considered for immediate surgery, as early intervention can result in regaining full consciousness and recovery thus greatly improving the clinical outcomes. Coming to the mesenteric malperfusion. Mesenteric malperfusion in case of the acute type A aortic dissection is an uncommon complication. It is an uncommon complication seen in about the 1.4 to 9.5% of the patients as mentioned in the table 1. The consequences are severe. Surgically, the management is onerous because compared to other complications of acute type A aortic dissection, even after the traditional central aortic repair approach, mesenteric malperfusion is associated with an extremely poor prognosis and a majority hospital mortality rate of 55.8 to 75%. The diagnosis of mesenteric malperfusion involves a combination of clinical features, that is the abdominal pain, reduction in bowel movement, laboratory and the radiological findings. The presence of severe lactic acidosis indicates the organ ischemia and is also associated with a near 100% mortality rate with intervention. Acidosis is also an independent risk factor for the mortality. Management of mesenteric malperfusion is fraught with debate as whether to treat the malperfusion first or deal with the acute type aortic dissection at the initial management stage. In the context of mesenteric ischemia, immediate surgical management of aortic root is still associated with a high mortality rate. Here, the multiple studies have suggested a staged approach consisting of revascularization, a waiting period to allow for the reperfusion, followed by an aortic root repair. And the approaches for revascularization include the endovascular fenestration, supramesenteric artery stenting, surgical fenestration, and the bypass. Surgical or percutaneous fenestration as a method for revascularization prior to aortic replacement has been highlighted in the different articles. However, as Fabre et al. In 2002 noted that the surgical fenestration is still associated with a postoperative mortality rate of 43%. Aortic fenestration, it is a method for decompressing the hypertensive false lumen by creating a hole in the distal part of the dissection flap. Furthermore, a percutaneous fenestration approach is associated with a recurrent malperfusion, making the selection of the therapeutic revascularization less desirable. Shivasu et al. In 2019 also advocate a considered approach with the patient's own unique clinical presentation, presence of malperfusion syndrome, and the endovascular revascularization in determining the treatment modality. The most profound short-term consequences associated with the mesenteric malperfusion is that it has the highest mortality rate compared to other malperfusion syndrome. Compared to patients with no malperfusion, the mortality rates are 39% versus the 7.5%. Hence, due to the excessive mortality associated with the immediate surgical therapy in patients with mesenteric malperfusion, delayed open aortic repair following the endovascular treatment may be a reasonable strategy. However, a clear consensus on the optimal management pathway of mesenteric malperfusion is yet to be determined. Coming towards the upper and lower limb malperfusion. Limb malperfusion in acute type A aortic dissection has an incidence of 15 to 40%, but the consequences ultimately are less severe than other malperfusion syndromes. Clinically, in addition to the classic tearing chest pain associated with the aortic dissection, weak or absent pulses and the blood pressure variation in the limbs is an early indication of limb malperfusion confirmed with the CT angiography. When considering the management for limb malperfusion, historically, immediate repair of the aortic arch without prior revascularization has been preferred. Retail and the colleagues support this approach as 61% of limb malperfusion in 62 of their patients result with a simple proximal arch repair of the dissection itself without any need for the further intervention. However, a quarter of patients in this study require further vascular intervention to reperfuse the lower limb with the cannula-driven bypass. Other investigations also confirmed if persistent postoperative ischemia remains, more radical management may be required, such as the limb amputation. There are few authors that advocate a lack to intervention because the risks of mortality associated with an aggressive approach is high despite the chance of limb preservation. Moreover, it bears mentioning that there is also the risk of limb tissue necrosis associated with a delay in primary repair, which leaves the patient vulnerable to further morbidity as limb ischemia is prolonged. Theoretically, the proposed approaches are reperfusion followed by primary repair to the aortic arch. However, this approach is still risky given the high initial mortality rate accompanying the untreated dissection in the first 48 hours. Similarly, Patel and the colleagues noted that the strategy of delayed operative repair following the percutaneous reperfusion still carries a considerable risk of early and late mortality. As a third option, a compound approach with a simultaneous reperfusion and surgery is also being explored in some papers. In 2020, Little reported good outcomes in patients with a compound iliofemoral perfusion with aortic surgery therapeutic approach. With respect to prognosis, the majority of studies confirm that an isolated finding, limb ischemia, is not a risk factor for mortality if operated upon, with rates similar to a general population who present without organ malperfusion. However, the presence of limb malperfusion makes it more likely for other malperfusion syndromes to manifest. Superimposed onto the lower limb malperfusion, the mortality rate becomes worse and the likelihood of further complex management on top of the arch repair is more likely. Finally, more proximal, that is iliofemoral malperfusion, correlates to a high mortality rate than a distal malperfusion. Here in table 2, there is a comparing the difference in mortality rate between the patient undergoing different procedure with and without malperfusion syndrome. Here in doing the open procedure, open repair, the mortality in only the acute type A ascending aortic dissection alone, it consists up to 5 to 20%, whereas mortality in acute type A ascending aortic dissection with malperfusion, the mortality up to the 3.3 to 47. Whereas the same management with the endovascular management, the mortality in acute type A ascending aortic dissection alone consists of the 17 to 34%. As well as if it is consistent with the malperfusion, and the mortality is about 55.8 to 80%. Now talking about the risk stratification and the patient selection, the ability to timely diagnose the extent and type of malperfusion is fundamental in determining the risk stratification and the patient selection for the clinical intervention. Failure to do so significantly worsens the patient prognosis. This is particularly evident in the mesenteric malperfusion, which, despite the advancement in medicine and surgery, we see today still exhibits the prognosis with a mortality rate over 35% is irrespective of the intervention performed. It may be due to the diagnostic delay, as historically patients who present with the acute type A dissection are immediately triaged to undergo open surgical repair to treat the acute type A dissection, but end up neglecting the secondary malperfusion. Further reports have also demonstrated that even with open surgical repair, peripheral vascular malperfusion persists in 22% of the cases. The University of Michigan Hospital reports 70 out of 196 patients with acute type A dissection were diagnosed with malperfusion, and this patient subsequently underwent endovascular management prior to open surgery. Despite a 95% success rate in fenestration or stenting of vessels to alleviate the malperfusion, 38% of patients died before the surgical repair, and the 62% of patients who survived the surgical repair had a median survival rate of 54 months. In contrast, however, the 126 patients who did not present with the malperfusion and underwent immediate open surgery, the operative mortality rate was 9.5% with a median survival rate of 96 months. Statistics suggest that regardless of intervention, acute type A dissection complicated with a malperfusion conveys a high mortality risk than acute type A dissection alone. However, it is worth noting that the patient with malperfusion who underwent endovascular management followed by delayed open surgery had a better prognosis than the malperfusion group who underwent the immediate surgical intervention without prior endovascular management. Therefore, to stratify the patient risk and improve patient outcomes, clinicians should consider a more patient-specific approach by tailoring surgical strategies based on clinical presentation and individual risks rather than solely focusing on repairing the dissected aorta immediately. Coming towards the endovascular management, it involves dissection flap fenestration along with stent graft replacement, branch special stenting, or the combination of all. These techniques can quickly reinstate blood flow to ischemic end organs and minimize the risk of coagulopathy as a result of transfusion that occurs in open heart surgery. The dissection flap fenestration procedure begins with intravascular access through the femoral vessel, using a percutaneous needle and catheter to be guided across the true lumen of the aorta using either intravascular ultrasound, CTA imaging, or the angiography. Once the needle and catheter have crossed the dissection flap to create a fenestration, a balloon catheter is placed within the tail, which is then inflated and deflated to create a large opening for blood pressure calibration between the true and false lumen and re-establishing the blood flow. If fenestration alone is not able to decompress the true lumen of the aorta, a stent can be placed in the lumen to help sustain its patency. In the case of persistent malperfusion, additional branch vessel stenting will be required. Whilst it is unanimously agreed that open surgery repair presents with a better clinical outcomes than the endovascular management in acute type A aortic dissection and acute type A aortic dissection associated with malperfusion. Some studies have highlighted that in the setting of mesenteric malperfusion, endovascular stenting or the fenestration when employed alongside surgical repair produce better outcomes than either technique can achieve alone. As demonstrated in the International Registry of the Acute Aortic Dissection study following the assessment of hospital mortality in mesenteric malperfusion, open surgery in conjugation with the endovascular management produced the superior clinical outcomes with a 31% of lower mortality rate. Coming towards the open surgical repair, in patient with acute type A dissection, open surgical repair of the aortic arch is the gold standard treatment. Without surgery, half of patient will die. There are a number of factors to consider when determining whether or not to proceed with the immediate open surgical intervention. One factor to consider in the malperfusion scenario is the specific subtype of malperfusion the patients are presenting with. For cerebral malperfusion, the gold standard remains the open aortic root repair, but the key questioning is the timing of aggressive surgical intervention to avoid the potentiating the cerebral malperfusion. Fitzpatrick et al. On 2019 support the adoption of an aggressive immediate surgical repair approach as they demonstrate a positive clinical outcome in 75% of the patients. Moreover, they emphasize that this approach is suitable even in the presence of complicating factors such as the carotid artery dissection. With respect to mesenteric malperfusion, though, a relatively rare complication compared to cerebral and coronary malperfusion syndrome, it is associated with a high mortality rate and thus surgical timing has to be more precise. In recent years, the developing consensus is that a delay in the timing of open surgery is preferable. Lesnar et al. In 2019 corroborate this delayed approach perspective. In the review of 34 patients with mesenteric malperfusion, 10 patients who underwent thoracic endovascular aortic repair strategy has no cases of bowel ischemia or acidosis, and reperfusion was established before more severe complication of acute type A dissection could occur. A 24-hour delay approach to aortic replacement appears to be beneficial, particularly if the patient has signs of lactic acidosis but lacks more adverse features including the aortic regurgitation or the cardiac tamponade. If the patient does not present with acidosis, then immediate open repair of the proximal aortic arch is preferred. Whilst the standard treatment approach is open aortic repair, it does have its own disadvantages. In the immediate aftermath, the postoperative bed rest can be high as 25% as mentioned in table 2, and the immediate open repair to the aortic root might leave the patient vulnerable to the malperfusion injuries postoperatively, as reperfusion has not been allowed to be established. With respect to aorta reparation, there is difficulty in establishing postoperative remodeling of the distal aorta and the delayed regeneration of the distal aorta when an open approach is issued. Conventional versus the frozen elephant trunk management. Conventional and the frozen elephant trunk are two different surgical techniques that are used to treat the complex thoracic aortic disease. Introduced nearly 4 decades ago by Hans Bosch, the conventional elephant trunk technique is the surgical intervention of the aortic arch and the descending thoracic aorta. This procedure consists of the two stages. The first stage it consists of a free floating extension, that is, the elephant trunk is inserted in the proximal descending aorta. The second stage, the descending aorta can be replaced through thoracotomy, thoracofrenolaparotomy, or the endovascular repair. Advantages of inserting the prosthetic elephant trunk is that it avoids the need to clamp the distal region of the distal aortic arch, thereby protecting nearby arterial, venous, nervous, or the bronchial and the lymphatic structure. However, a disadvantage of the conventional elephant trunk is the undeniable risk of interval mortality during the first and second stages of the operation, which is found to be between the 3 to 13%. The frozen elephant trunk technique is a more recent surgical technique that utilizes a hybrid approach combining the concept of conventional and the endovascular stenting by using the hybrid prosthesis. The hybrid prosthesis contains a non-stented proximal portion that replaces the aortic arch and a stented distal portion to achieve the integrated stenting and repair of the descending thoracic aorta. In comparison to the conventional approach, frozen elephant trunk is achieved in a single stent and has a more acceptable mortality rate. However, studies report that the frozen elephant trunk is associated with an increased risk of spinal cord injury, as the incidence rate from the 5.1% to as high as 24% compared to the 0.4 to 2.8% in patients undergoing the conventional elephant trunk. In the context of the acute type A aortic dissection with malperfusion syndrome, the conventional and the frozen elephant trunk technique represent two surgical alternatives for the treatment of the acute type A dissection. The frozen elephant trunk technique superseded the conventional technique in acute type A dissection with the rationale of avoiding the second stage operation. Frozen elephant trunk is thought to induce the coverage of additional entry tears in the proximal descending thoracic aorta, reduce the distal aortic malperfusion, facilitate the remodeling, and improve the long-term survival. However, functional elephant trunk is the optimal treatment for the acute type A dissection remains the debatable. Considering the advantages and the disadvantages of both techniques, the lack of randomized controlled trials, and the long-term data, careful patient selection and risk stratification remains essential in patients with acute type A dissection associated malperfusion. In the conclusion, without doubt, acute type A dissection associated malperfusion has a higher mortality rate when compared with isolated acute type A dissection, and despite advances in clinical practice, imaging studies and operative techniques, postoperative outcomes for patients with acute type A dissection concomitant with the malperfusion remains poor. Open aortic repair is currently the gold standard for managing acute type A dissection. Hybrid techniques have earned a growing role in the contemporary management of acute type A dissection and continues to be a dynamic and evolving field. In a number of cases, the rapid and accurate deployment of the endovascular techniques in the conjugation with the open surgical repair produced superior outcomes than either procedure was able to achieve alone. However, For the long-term competitive data is required to gather a more comprehensive understanding of how to improve the long-term outcomes in patients with the malperfusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rabin. That was a wonderful presentation about the malperfusions associated with acute aortic dissection and the current understanding about the treatment of the complications of malperfusion related aortic dissection treatment. Right. So you have rightly covered all the complications associated with that one, which is primarily divided into myocardial malperfusion, cerebral malperfusion, mesenteric malperfusion, and the limb malperfusions. And considering the incidence and the mortality, so the cerebral malperfusions is associated with the 50% mortality. And if it involves the coronaries, it is associated with a 30% mortality. And we have also dwelled upon the endovascular as well as the surgical approaches to treating aortic dissection. And again, the open surgical repair has stood the test of time. And even in this even in this era, where endovascular approaches have been making inroads into treatment of many other diseases, still open surgical repair is holding out for the management of acute aortic dissection. And yes, if there is malperfusion related complications in acute aortic dissection, endovascular techniques can step in to produce reperfusions by stenting for the affected vessels. So with that, I open up the forum for discussion. Those who would like to make some comments with relation to this particular topic can feel free to either type into the chat box or unmute yourself and go ahead.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everybody. So this article is given little this one. He says surgery is the choice, and later he says you have to postpone the surgery, and later of a few days, first you deal with the endovascular. He combines both. But what I feel is as the mortality increases every hour by 1%, even slightest postponing of 24 to 48 hours, there will be a mortality rate of 80%. So surgery is the interaction in combination with that. Example, mesenteric ischemia. It's very difficult to identify the mesenteric arteries. It is not so easy. So those conditions, even the endovascular plays a very important role. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Endovascular, stent implanting plays a very important role, especially the mesenteric, because it's very difficult to identify the surgically the vessels because of the bowel and all. As every second to every minutes there will be injury, as we all know that about 40% of the total cardiac output is to the bowel one, GIT, which is most neglected part in cardiac surgeries. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
In bypass during bypass and all, just we are not taken care. We won't take care much of this one to the gastrointestinal system part. We take so many care to the brain, kidney, everything. But as a whole gastrointestinal, this one we are not taking care, because the most important is, as we all know, 40% of the total cardiac output is for GIT only. So what I feel, both combined surgical as well as the endovascular, especially if limbs, this one is okay, we see, and even the endovascular first plays they have mentioned acidosis and all is contraindicated for surgeries. So go for endovascular. This one first establish the perfusion. Our aim is to establish the perfusion.
Yes, sir.
Then
Thank you for comments. Yeah.
then we combine what I feel surgery is the choice because they mentioned it. Even the comatose patient will get a benefited, especially the cerebral complications. If you go ahead and do the correction, and even the mortality is less than 2%, what they mentioned. Is it no?
Yes.
Then I have not understood the what is frozen and conventional elephant trunk. Can you explain it? Anup or Doctor?
Yeah, Robin, do you want to go ahead with that?
Sir, conventional, they have mentioned it is the only the surgical approach. But in case of the frozen trunk, we go along with the
Single stage anta ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, but what is the advantage? And other one is fenestration of the aorta. Is it so easy to fenestrate the aorta with catheter or
Yes.
fenestration of the flap? Flap you're
Yeah,
telling
fenestration
about?
of the flap, sir. Yes,
Flap,
fenestration of the flap.
Okay.
Yes, to establish reperfusion. That is primarily if the patient is having mesenteric malperfusion. Only in those patients. Yes, as you have rightly pointed out in your comments. So if the patient is having coronary or cerebral malperfusions, the early open surgical repair, as early as possible, surgical repair is the treatment of choice.
I surprised even the comatose patient will get benefited.
Yes, yes.
Cerebral.
Yeah,
Though
yeah.
we are in the dilemma whether the brain is so much. What is the degree of percentage of injury and all? Whether it will get useful for this patient for the extensive surgery and all. We are in dilemma, but still it is benefited to the patients.
Yes. So yeah, so if, for acute aortic dissection, so open surgical repair as early as possible is the treatment of choice even now. And but if there is involvement of the mesenteric vessels and there is mesenteric malperfusion related complications, then they suggest that we have to optimize the patient, try to do reperfusion of the bowel area, optimize, and then take him up for primary repair of the aortic dissection. And as sir asked about the conventional and the frozen technique, the conventional is a two-stage technique where you do the frozen trunk is put into the descending aorta, and the remaining part is done at a later stage at a different setting. Whereas the frozen elephant trunk, what they do is they do it in a single stage. So the surgical team will replace the ascending and the arch, and the cath lab will do the from below. From the start, they will do the stenting in the same setting itself. And
That's
along with
what,
that, if there is bowel ischemia, bowel involvement is there, they can do fenestration at the same sitting itself. So that is what.
Stentings.
So, yeah. So the in hybrid labs, where both the surgical team and the cardiology team will work in unison, and in a single sitting they can do both the techniques. But that is still in the data regarding that whether it is beneficial or not. It's still too early for us to say.
Recent advances, we last endovascular. This one we done it. Yes or no?
Yes.
So
last
recent,
week
even the acute ascending aortic dissection also we have the stent for recent advances. What?
Not for the ascending aorta, sir. No, so they have done.
No, it is mentioned. It was discussed,
mentioned, but only in research settings. It's still commercially available.
If it is workouts, definitely it will be.
For aortic aneurysm, yes, definitely it is there. In an elective situation where they take out measurements of the aorta with CT scan image, and then they customize the graft according to the dimensions. But in acute dissection situation, I'm not aware whether it is still the endovascular approach is there or not. For aortic aneurysm, yes, it is there. That too in research settings or in big academic institutions, it is available. They can do endovascular approach.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Anup, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Anup, I have this thing. Are there any recent advances this is intraoperative where we can ensure the perfusion to the brain? Well, I've seen patients who have undergone surgery fantastic surgical results, but patient not waking up, or intraoperative, the cerebrum doesn't getting perfused. So, are there any recent changes in the way we cannulate and perfuse the aorta, either from femoral artery or the axillary artery, to ensure brain perfusion? And are there any recent advances there?
No, so I'm not that I'm aware of. For acute aortic dissection, the treatment is to early reperfusion, means early replacement of the ascending aorta and correct the malperfusion of the cerebral circulation. That is the treatment as early as possible. Do not delay at all. And for during the intraoperative,
that was, I think, without doubt. Yeah, that's
Okay.
Sir, I have read in one this one where the carotid, if it is not carotid perfusion, antegrade perfusion is done.
Yes, yes. So yeah, so selective
So that
antegrade perfusion in the intraoperative
even
period can be
I
done.
was discussing about intraoperative period, Dhanu.
Yeah. So intraoperative period.
Okay, I have seen surgeons just perfusing through the femoral artery. And there are surgeons who use a hybrid technique where they do both the axillary as well as the femoral artery,
Yes.
in the hope that something will be perfusing the brain.
Yes.
But we have had problems with both this thing. I think probably if you combine it with the cerebral oximetry and other monitoring techniques, probably that might improve. And of course, that means if you are doing selective cannulation, it adds a lot to the surgical time. So that can be a problem as well.
Yes.
We discussed last time same thing. If the circle of Willis, one part of the circle of Willis is not working selectively, we go with the carotid perfusions. That's what we discussed with the sir.
Yeah. So that's where the nurse monitoring will be of great benefit. So we can find out how the cerebral perfusion is going on, and depending if there is a not enough saturation in one particular hemisphere, we can immediately identify that and take corrective steps.
Okay. Probably I think monitoring would be the key to decide on the technique, I think. Thanks, Anup.
Yes. Anyone else would like to make a comment or want to share their experience with managing such difficult patients? Feel free. Right. So that was a good presentation from Dr. Rabin, and thank you, Dr. Ratan and Dr. Prabhu Shankar, for contributing to the for the discussion as well. I don't see any chat messages, and if no one else likes to make a comment, shall I ask Dr. Prabhu Shankar to conclude the meeting then? Prabhu Shankar, sir? Things sir has become busy. So all right. Okay. I'd like to thank all the participants who had come in, and thank you, Dr. Rabin, for that wonderful presentation on aortic malperfusion syndromes, and for the article that you have selected, and also to Raji for providing the technical support in the background. And I expect hope to see all of you all in the next meeting where we'll select another article that has come up and we'll deliberate on that one.
Sorry, I muted, sir.
No problem, sir. Yeah.
By accidentally it was muted. Thanks.
No,
today's speaker, Dr. Rabin and Anup, sir, and even Rajiv also. Because of his contribution, we are running the day-to-day academic program. I thanks Rajiv and all the participants.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you all for joining in, and then hope to see you all in the next week where we'll select another recent article and deliberate on that one. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you. Good.